Say goodbye to 13 years of Turkey's one-party rule. President Recep Tayyip Erdoğan wanted to change Turkey's constitution to expand the president's powers. Voters rejected that. But there was a historic breakthrough for Turkey's pro-Kurdish coalition, the HDP. What will this result mean for the region? Hello, I'm Anand Naidu in Washington, D.C., and this is The Heat. A high turnout in Turkey's general election. That didn't turn out so well for the party in power. The AKP won around 258 seats, a loss of around 70 seats from the previous election in 2011. That left Erdoğan's AKP party far short of the majority it needed to form a single-party government and change the constitution. Erdoğan was seeking a two-thirds majority, enough to amend the constitution and transform Turkey into a presidential republic, shifting more power from parliament to the presidency. Turkey's voters said no. Joining me now from Istanbul with the latest is our reporter Stephanie Freed. And Stephanie, what's the latest on efforts to form a government?
Well, it's early days, early hours, really, for talking about forming the government. Of course, everyone's talking about it. And the former ruling party, the AK party, is looking to form a coalition, or the expectation is perhaps they would form a coalition. However, the big question is, who with? Two of the opposition party leaders have said no, they will not sit in a coalition with the AK party. Another leader of one of the front-running four parties has said too early to talk about that. However, what they're talking about in public, the leaders of these parties on coalition forming versus what they're talking about in private with each other, is always quite a big mystery. So the one option is forming a coalition, although the analysts I've spoken with here seem to be doubtful that it would be a stable coalition or that it could be formed. Another option is that this new elected parties will go toward a minority. The AK party would go toward a minority government, which is also unstable in the long haul. And then, of course, everyone's talking about the final solution, which would be early elections within the year. New elections, another round of parliamentary elections. So a bit early to tell, but options are on the table. And if there is, I might add, a coalition to be formed, the most likely option that people are talking about would be with a nationalist movement party that is with the AK party. Anand.
Stephanie, the AK party was hoping to win a clear majority. President Erdoğan was hoping that the majority would give him the chance to rewrite the constitution, amend the constitution in such a way that he would get more power as president, create an executive presidency. So how big a surprise was this result for Turkey?
Some say it was a big surprise. Some were very disappointed, certainly those who are staunch supporters of the AK party. Again, the analyst I spoke with today was not surprised at all. He said the people said that they wanted change, and that's reflected in the vote. People also said they wanted a coalition government. However, they're not really sure what that coalition government should look like. Some feel that a coalition government would add more stability. On the flip side, there are people here who are saying that a coalition government brings change. They feel that it has been a growing, strong economy under the AK party for 13 years. They don't want to see change. So it's certainly an upset. It's certainly dramatic, and that's how it's being headlined and talked about on the streets here of Turkey. But in terms of whether it was a tremendous surprise, not really in talking to people, again, because there was the air of desiring change here.
Now, the Kurdish parties did very well in this election. How significant is their victory, and does it in some way signal a new era in Turkish politics?
Well, certainly that's the way it's being viewed among those people in the parties. In the opposition, what was being called the opposition groups. It's the first time they're in parliament. They now have a voice. The party that was the big surprise party that came in the fourth place here in terms of the vote They are representative of minorities, of the ethnic minority voice. They represent the voice of women. Also, they're pro-environment. And again, they're Kurdish, pro-representative of the Kurds. This is a very new thing here in the political system here. And it lends hope, again, to those minorities, to the women. We spoke with women here on the streets today who were very happy. They said they were grateful. They were grateful to see, they feel they're going to be represented as well as some of the minorities. So yes, this is being seen and viewed as historic, and a historic move toward change.
Thanks, Stephanie. That's CCTV correspondent Stephanie Fried reporting from Istanbul. Joining me now in the studio is Nora Fischer-Onar. She's a fellow at the Transatlantic Academy of the German Marshall Fund right here in Washington, D.C. Nora, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So what do you make of the outcome of the election in Turkey?
Well, I think there are really three takeaways. The first is that there's a veto on the executive presidency option for Erdoğan. The second is that there is some uncertainty about what type of a government will be formed. And the third is that the Kurds have really emerged as a mainstream force in Turkish politics.
When you say there's a veto, President Erdoğan wanted a clear majority so he could change the constitution, which would give him more power.
Absolutely. There was it was a part of the Justice and Development Party's campaign, and the grassroots behind the party was very much committed to the idea of Erdoğan becoming the sort of executive president. But the outcome falls far short of the 330 votes that would be needed even to go to the people for a referendum on a presidency. At only 258, it's well below that, and indeed not enough to form a government all by itself.
So nobody has a majority right now. We get into the realm of coalition politics. Negotiations will start, I expect, very soon on the formation.
I imagine they've already started.
Already started, right? Do you expect this to be a long process? I mean, what are the prospects for a government being put in place pretty swiftly?
Well, there's a bit of a dilemma here, because on one hand, it's in everyone's interest for there to be a government in place right away for the new parties to secure their place in this parliament, and for the AKP to demonstrate that it is a responsible actor that is looking towards the good of the whole country, the economy, by getting a government up and running as soon as possible. On the other hand, the elections were so polarizing, and you now have 4 different identity groups quite entrenched in parliament, and Turkish politics are not known for being filled with lots of compromising gestures. So it's a bit hard to see how they're going to back down from various red lines that everyone has drawn vis-a-vis each other in order to form a coalition.
Right. When we look at the broad opposition to the AKP, the opposition that has done so well in this election, what was the coalition that was put together?
Right, so the coalition was basically borrowed votes, that's the way it's been referred to in Turkish, borrowed votes from the liberal left progressive wing of the pro-secular party, and borrowed votes, as it were, from religious Kurds who have, in past elections, sided with AKP. So it's not really a very large number of people, but it was critical to get through this 10% electoral threshold that Turkey has since 1980, that was put in place precisely to keep Kurds out of parliament. And the people who were behind this coalition include a lot of women, include ethnic and religious minorities, and also perhaps some AKP supporters who have been disappointed by the party's performance in recent years.
How will the election results be seen by the United States and indeed Turkey's other NATO allies?
Well, I think they're being interpreted as a success story for Turkish democracy on the part of the opposition, but also on the part of the AKP, which has proven that when Turkey goes to the polls, things can be conducted in a fair and orderly fashion, and that the ruling party can step down, because the habit of hegemony seemed to be going a little bit to the AKP's heads, and this is they've revealed that this is an opportunity for taking stock, and they've thought about. There have been some expressions among AKP-oriented intellectuals, for example, that this is really a time to step back and reflect upon what happened.
Nora Fisher-Ohnard, thanks for joining us.